сила, шабля моя свата. Моя Катя наша слава козацькая, не на папері писана, лісами, гаями, байраками, вона заколисана. Наша слава козацькая, не на папері писана, лісами, гаями, байраками,
Казала в понеділок, підем разом по барвінок. Я прийшов, тебе нема, підманула, підвела. Ти ж мене підманула, ти ж мене підвела. Ти ж мене молодого з ума розуму звела. Ти казала у вівторок, поцілуєш разів 40. Я прийшов, тебе нема, підманула, підвела. Ти ж мене підманула, ти ж мене підвела. Ти ж мене молодого з ума розуму звела. Ти казала у середу, підем разом по череду. Я прийшов, тебе нема, підманула, підвела. Ти ж мене підманула, ти ж мене підвела. Ти ж мене молодого з ума розуму звела. Ти казала у четвер, підем разом на концерт. Я прийшов, тебе нема, підманула, підвела. Ти ж мене підманула, ти ж мене підвела. Ти ж мене молодого з ума розуму звела. Ти казала у п'ятницю, підем разом по суницю. Я прийшов, тебе нема, підманула, підвела. Ти ж мене підманула, ти ж мене підвела. Ти ж мене молодого з ума розуму звела. Ти казала у суботу, підем разом на роботу. Я прийшов, тебе нема, підманула, підвела. Ти ж мене підманула, ти ж мене підвела. Ти ж мене молодого з ума розуму звела. Ти казала у неділю, підем разом на весілля. Я прийшов, тебе нема, підманула, підвела. Ти ж мене підманула, ти ж мене підвела. Ти ж мене молодого з ума розуму звела. Я ж тебе підманула, я ж тебе підвела. Я ж тебе молодого з ума розуму звела.
Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар. Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптя посорбати довбані щі, та трохи у щах перегрівся навар. Байрактар. Байрактар. Зі сходу припхались до нас барани, для восстановлення великої страни, найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар. Байрактар. Їх доводи, всяке озброєння, різне, ракети, потужні машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар. Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, і ми зачаїли на орків образу, з бандитів російських робить примар. Байрактар. Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, на вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто ж винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар. Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає їх цар.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another day of the news. It is day 116, and it is our Sunday fundraiser stream.
And of course, we'll be covering the past 24 hours of the war in Ukraine. And I'd also like to note two important things about tonight's fundraiser. Starting off, we are doing the UNHCR again for about the third time. The UNHCR is the largest refugee organization there is in the world, and they are providing the most assistance to the 12 million Ukrainians that have been displaced from this war, and several million of them have wound up in Poland, Romania, Hungary, Slovakia, and other European countries. The numbers get smaller as you go further west. But by and large, there are millions of Ukrainians who rely on the UNHCR for support. Just for y'all to know again, also about the UNHCR, is that according to their estimates and figures, it costs $110 to provide an entire refugee family with the basic necessities to survive 1 month. And so if you would like to support exactly one Ukrainian family, then the exact number you need to reach is $110. Once again, every little bit of support counts, and we highly recommend that everyone tries to chip in just a little bit, because a little bit goes a long way from when it's from a massive group like the Lee Spring Army. The second thing I've seen is that a YouTube channel that we actually wanted to team up with before for a fundraiser has now begun to make it public that they are fundraising for Ukraine. And that channel is none other than Mr. Beast. Now, I have huge respect for Mr. Beast. He's an incredibly generous person. His shows are above and beyond some of the highest quality, I would say, on YouTube in terms of their production cost and also entertainment value. But he is now running a fundraiser too. And so, while I have the hugest respect for him, we are now in a competition, the Lee Spring Army versus the Mr. Beast Army, to see who can raise the most funds for Ukraine over these next few hours. He put up a video on Beast Philanthropy that has already raised some $4,000 to $5,000, and I'm wondering, can our channel reach $10,000 before the 11 p.m. Eastern Time mark here on this stream? I honestly think that this is a little bit of a fun competition. Now, I think Mr. Beast is incredibly cool, and he's done amazing things and cool things at that. Hopefully, maybe in the future, we can team together for a fundraiser, but right now, the Lee Spring Army has to hold its ground. We have been the largest fundraising unit on YouTube, on a live stream in YouTube's history so far during the Ukraine war, as far as I know, and I know that we can continue to go above and beyond to try and get as much support as possible to be able to help out the Ukrainians. Now, I did see someone say he's already gotten to $3 million, but that $3 million support was actually through companies that he reached out to, and then they gave him material support to then send to Ukraine. But the fundraiser he has on the video is at $4,000 to $5,000 right now, and I know that the Lee Spring Army can get to $10,000 and blow right through it. And so I'm going to say this. Tonight is going to be the longest night. Call your friends, call your family, call your roommates, your extended dog's friends, call everyone and get them on the stream and have them trying to donate as well. We are going to hold this ground as the Lee Spring Army. We have never failed at a fundraiser, never fallen short of a goal, and I know that tonight we'll be able to blow past this $10,000 goal and go even further. And so help me to do that. I've already put in $1,114 tonight in support of Ukraine, and I would like to give a huge shout out to one of our channel viewers named Susan, who helped me to be able to put in that much tonight in a fundraiser. And so thank you so much, Susan, if you are watching. It was a huge privilege to be able to receive that kind of support and also put it towards the Sunday fundraiser on your behalf. And so thank you once again. She said she most likely wasn't watching, but if she is watching this tomorrow, I want her to hear that note first thing. I thank you so much, and it meant a lot to Matthew and me that you supported Ukraine so much, and also this channel. Now, the second thing that we're going to be covering before we actually get to the stream tonight is, of course, our schedule. So we're going to be starting off in the Kyiv district, the Kyiv area of the country today, because we have two important pieces of news to cover there. We'll then be moving out of Kyiv, and we'll then be moving straight into our location unknowns near Kharkiv. Once we cover all of the location unknowns and the northern Kyiv news, we'll then be moving on to the Kharkiv and northern Donbass. But before we get there, we're of course going to take a pause and answer 3 questions from the chat, and also recognize our highest donors on tonight's fundraiser. After we do that, we'll then move on to the Kharkiv and northern Donbass areas and cover the news that is to be had there. We'll then, once again, answer 3 questions in between the northern Donbass and the rest of the southern front, and after we answer those 3 questions and recognize the donors there, we'll then be moving to the southern front and the remainder of the news we have from in Ukraine and around the world. We have 2 bits of news that are around the world, and we also forgot about the bit in St. Petersburg, which will be covered in the Kyiv location unknown segment, but we do have 2 bits of international news, and one of them is incredibly interesting and something that should be expounded on. Also, one other thing, a lot of y'all are probably wondering, what is the title about? The army headquarters is destroyed. Whose army? What are you talking about? What I'm talking about is that the first army headquarters of the Donetsk People's Republic's headquarters was destroyed today in a Ukrainian artillery barrage, but we will get to that later on in that segment of the news. But we're now going to move on into Kyiv and start there for today. Starting off, we can see that the Ukrainians have banned Russian media. It was almost a unanimous vote in the Ukrainian parliament, and today they have banned all forms of Russian media, regardless of what kind it is. They say that they're going to be lifting these restrictions once the war is over and the Russians retreat from all of the captured territory that they currently have. Now, they've been joined today by other countries, and we will get to that in the international news segment today, but this is a very interesting turn, and this is something I actually didn't know. This entire time, I thought that Russian media had been banned in Ukraine, but surprisingly enough, the Ukrainians had allowed free speech, by and large, to exist this long into the war. And some of y'all are saying, well, isn't that kind of default? The answer to that's no. Usually free speech is one of the first things to be shut down in any country whenever a war begins, and you can even see that here in the United States in World War I in the case of Schneck versus United States, where people did not really have, under that Supreme Court ruling, the right to, I guess you could say, protest during wartime, which was, I guess you could say, a hindering on their freedom of speech. So I'm actually surprised that Russian media was allowed to be aired in Ukraine this long, and I believe that it is a step in the right direction for Ukraine and ensuring that their citizens do not get demoralized by the news that the Russians pump out, and we know it's clearly fake. We've seen enough of it here on this channel to know that for certain. We're now going to be moving on out to the European area, where we've actually seen some footage today of the scars of war left over from the times that Russian forces were right on the outskirts of Kyiv. And so, here's the video. Unfortunately, the video quality is not great, but we can see that they finally fixed the bridge, at least in a way. They didn't rebuild it, but they did manage to build up a dirt pile across the bridge that cars can now use to cross. So they also have the, I guess you could say, temporary pipe bridge that's been constructed here on the right side of the screen, and we can finally see that they've done something as a stopgap to help this bridge still be operational in a way. We can now see the car slowly crossing this dirt mound. We can now see it coming up the other side. Now we can get a second camera view of that bridge. And now we're finally in airspeed. Right off the bat, you can see that an entire building has been destroyed. It appears that a large bomb hit it right in the dead center and blew apart multiple floors. Now we can see one of the city squares. I would say it's a park, and you can see that all of the apartment buildings around it have been burned out, and some of them are completely blown apart. Hundreds of civilians died in the Bucha Hospital Irpin area around a month and a half ago, or 2 months ago at this point, since the war's been going on so long, from Russian atrocities where the Russians would gather up civilians, tie them by their hands and legs, and then shoot them in the middle of the street, sometimes taking them into school basements and shooting them in mass. And the scenes were absolutely shocking when they happened.